Well, hey y'all. So today's video is going to be super honest and real. I have been searching for a paint that I could pick up in my hardware store, I could tint it any color and not have to top coat, that I could use on furniture. So I think I've narrowed it down to a couple of really good options that I think might work for you as well. So I will be giving my honest opinion on which one I feel works the best, but I'll also be giving pros and cons so that you can decide for yourself which one might work best for you. So the two types of paint that we'll be comparing today is Benjamin Moore's Advance and the BEHR Urethane Alkyd Enamel. Now they're both alkyd paints, which means they're water-based paints that have oil-based properties. The reason why I chose these two paints is because they were a reasonable price point, as well as the alkyd paints don't need a top coat. They level out really nicely. They have the durability of the oil-based paint, but they're easy cleanup with the water-based and low fumes as well. So that is kind of what I was looking for when looking for the paint for furniture, because I'm very tactile and I like just that nice, super smooth finish. If that's not important to you, then there's other options out there. The other reason why is because these were both easily accessible to me. These were both within a 15-minute drive from my home versus some of the others were like 30 minutes away. So if there's one that you think that I should compare as well, I will drive a little further and I'll compare those as well. If you have a go-to that you really like, leave that in the comments below. And I'd love to do another video and another comparison, because like I said, I'm really trying to find the ultimate one that I think will be my go-to. So go ahead and leave that in the comments below. I've used both of these paints on furniture, and I will show you pictures of what they look like completed on a piece of furniture. But today we're going to be using sample boards, and I'm using the same type of wood for both samples so that you can get an accurate side-by-side comparison, as well as how easily they are applied, which includes the dry time. So I've already put 2 coats of primer on our samples, and we're going to compare how well it rolls, how well it sprays in a sprayer, as well as how well you apply with a brush. So I've already put 2 coats of primer on our samples, and we're going to get started with seeing how well it rolls out with a roller, how well the paint applies with a paintbrush, as well as how well it is sprayed with a sprayer. So let's get started, but stay through the end so that you can hear which one you think would be my favorite choice. So we're going to start with the BEHR Urethane Alkyd, and we are going to use the color Solitary Tree. I've used this on my bathroom vanity before, and I thought it has enough color to it that you're going to be able to see the texture well. So I am using a flocked foam roller, and I have loaded all the paint on there, and now I'm kind of offloading it on a scrap board so that you get some of the excess off, but it also soaks into the foam roller quite well so we can get an accurate sample. You're going to roll on the paint and then come back and roll just lightly over the entire thing to make sure you don't have any roller marks. Then after waiting 4 hours, you can apply your second coat. You're going to give it a good scuff sand and then apply your second coat the same as you did the first. Then I loaded up my sprayer by thinning the paint by 20% and sprayed the sample as well. Once that sample had dried, I sanded half a side of the sprayed sample, and now I'm applying it with a zebra synthetic bristle brush so we can see what it looks like applied with a brush. Now we'll do the sample for the Benjamin Moore Advance with the same exact process. Using that flocked foam roller, load that paint roller up really well, offload onto the sample, and then you're ready to go to get a nice accurate sample. Now this will leave a few bubbles, but don't worry about that because it's all going to level out and you won't see them in the second coat. And again, we give it a scuff sand with 220 grit sandpaper and apply the second coat. Both samples had equal distribution of paint, coverage, I should say. Both samples had exact same coverage on the first coat. Maybe the green just a slightly lighter, but nothing major of a difference. They both were very similar. Then again, we did the same sample with the sprayer. Please note that this paint takes 16 hours in between coats for dry time, per manufacturer instructions. After that dried, we did the same scuff sand on half of this sample and applied with the zebra synthetic bristle brush. I used the same type of brush on both samples so that we could get accurate comparisons. Hey y'all, if you're enjoying this video so far, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. If you have any paint that you'd like to mention or have me compare in a future video, leave that in the comments below. As well as if you'd like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video. Okay, so let's start the comparison. We're going to start with price point. The BEHR Urethane Alkyd Enamel is for a quart is $21.98. And the Benjamin Moore Advance is $32.99. So there is a $10 difference. So for that, we're going to give a point to the BEHR because it is definitely a better price point. I'm going to add one more factor to give you options to pick the best paint for you. In that Benjamin Moore, we have a local Benjamin Moore store very close to me. We also have Benjamin Moore is also carried in our Ace Hardware. Now, I know that that is not always accessible to everyone. So for that reason, the BEHR paint, which is sold in Home Depot, which most cities and most places has a Home Depot. So for that reason, there are more locations, more Home Depot locations. So we're going to give a point to the BEHR for that as well. Now we're going to move on to the durability. So these paints have been painted and have cured for about 2 weeks. I did these samples just before I left for vacation. So something that I noticed that when I run my nail across the BEHR, whether it's the rolled on version, the brushed on version, or the sprayed, it leaves a scratch mark. Now, I have used this on my bathroom vanity, and I went in there. It's been several months since I have done that. I went in there and did the scratch test on that, and it did not leave any scuff marks. So the longer you leave this to dry, the better it's going to be. But now the Benjamin Moore, there's no scratching at all with my fingernail. I did not come at this with something metal because I feel that if you gouge at something, it's going to leave a mark no matter what you put on it. So, I mean, epoxy is like the most indestructible, and even that will dent and scratch if you come gouging at it with metal. I don't feel that that's an appropriate test. In those cases, the paint is going to scratch or chip if you come gouging at it with something metal. That's just not appropriate. So for the scratch test for durability, we're going to give that point to Benjamin Moore Advanced. So the next thing that I'm going to compare is how easily they were applied. So I found that the BEHR was a little bit thicker, so it took a slightly more to thin it out enough to put through the sprayer, but it wasn't too much that, it wasn't doable. Now, the manufacturer instructions on the BEHR says between 4 to 6 hours that you can apply the second coat. Now, moving on to Benjamin Moore Advanced, this paint was a little bit smoother and a little bit thinner, so it didn't need to be thinned out as much when I put it into the sprayer, and it takes 16 hours of dry time. So for that reason, we're going to give a point to BEHR, and we're going to give a half a point to the Benjamin Moore. The reason being is that this was a little bit thicker, so you had to finesse it a little more. This was easier straight out of the can. This had a shorter dry time, but this had a longer dry time. So a lot longer dry time. So for that reason, we give a point to this one and half a point to this one. So now we're going to compare the texture or the feel of the paint after it has dried for 2 weeks. The Benjamin Moore Advanced definitely leaves quite a bit more texture, like considerably more texture. Like when you rub your hand across it, it's quite bumpy. The other thing is the paint still feels, it kind of has a slight tack to it, almost like a latex. Now, when it was sprayed, it is nice and super smooth, but it still does have that tackiness. I'm wondering if that is why it's giving you the scuff marks. And then with brushing, there are considerable brush strokes. So as you can see on my bathroom vanity, the texture is still there. The Alkyd paint, that because of it is an Alkyd, it's supposed to lay down and level out nicely, but I applied this with a roller and it just didn't lay out. And then the Benjamin Moore Advance, this is the rolled version. Yes, it has texture, but it is a very smooth, muted out texture. And then spraying, it is smooth like butter, and there are minimal brush strokes with applying it with a brush. But as you can see, here is a piece of furniture that I completed with the Benjamin Moore Advance, and you can see it has a super smooth, buttery finish. So for that reason, I personally am giving the point to Benjamin Moore. Because like I said, when I finish a piece of furniture, I'm very tactile and I want to make sure it just has that nice, super buttery, smooth finish in the end. I feel that it looks more professional and it just gives a classier look to these. They both come in satin and in gloss. So in my honest opinion, Benjamin Moore Advanced would be my choice between these two types of paint. And that is because even though the price point is $10 more per quart, I feel that the application, the durability, and the overall feel of the finished product, it just outweighs what the BEHR is going to give you. Now, if you don't have Benjamin Moore paint easily accessible to you, then the BEHR is a perfectly viable option. Like I said, I had narrowed this down from lots of research, and I picked these two particular paints because I felt they were the best option for me. If the texture doesn't bother you and price point is more important, as well as it's more easily accessible to you, then by all means, go ahead and pick up your BEHR paint. Now, I will say that like I said, with the scratch test, the longer you let it cure, the less scuff marks you're going to get on this, but it's still going to have that texture. It doesn't lay down as nicely as the Benjamin Moore Advanced when you roll it or you use a brush. Now, when you spray it, it comes out beautiful. So if it's more easily accessible, you want a better price point, go ahead and spray it so that you just get that much nicer, smooth texture. So that completes our comparison video for today. If you've enjoyed this video, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video. If it's a type of paint that is your go-to, go ahead and leave that in that comment section below. Well, bye-bye, y'all. See you in the next one.